You're not the same person you used to be. But the scary part is, you didn't even notice when it started. Hey, welcome back. I'm really glad you're here today because what we're about to talk about is something most people feel deep down, but almost nobody actually says out loud. And I want you to stay with me through this entire video because by the end, something is going to click for you. Something that might change the way you see yourself and maybe, just maybe, start bringing you back to who you really are. So take a breath and let's get into it. There's this feeling that a lot of people are walking around with right now. It's hard to describe. It's not depression, it's not anxiety, it's not burnout, at least not fully. It's more like you look in the mirror and you recognize the face, but something behind the eyes feels distant, unfamiliar, like you're watching your own life from the outside. You go to work, you scroll your phone, you laugh at the right times, you say, "I'm good," when people ask how you are. And on the surface, everything looks completely normal. But inside, something feels off. And the worst part isn't the feeling itself. The worst part is that you don't even know when it happened. There was no dramatic moment, no single event you can point to. It just happened, slowly, quietly, in the background of your everyday life. Today, I'm going to walk you through 7 signs that you may have lost touch with yourself without even realizing it. And if even 2 or 3 of these hit home for you, I want you to know you are not broken. You are not alone. And there is a way back. You don't feel like you anymore. Now, that sounds like a strange thing to say, right? Of course you're you. You have your name, your memories, your face. But that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about that inner sense of self, that feeling of being grounded in who you are, what you value, what makes you you. That thing feels muted, fuzzy, like a radio that's slightly off station. You go through your days almost on autopilot. Wake up, routine, responsibilities, sleep, repeat. And somewhere in that loop, you stopped asking yourself how you actually feel about any of it. You're not living your life, you're performing it. And here's what makes this so sneaky. It doesn't feel dramatic. It doesn't announce itself. It's just a quiet hollowness that settles in over time. And one day you realize you've been going through the motions for so long, you forgot there was supposed to be something real underneath. Tell me if this sounds familiar. The moment you have nothing to do, no task, no obligation, no one to talk to, the first thing you reach for is your phone. Reels, TikToks, YouTube, anything to fill the silence. And it's not because you're bored. It's because silence feels uncomfortable, almost unbearable. Because when everything goes quiet, thoughts start to surface, feelings start to rise, and something inside you doesn't want to face them. So you drown them out, constantly, all day, every day. Now, distraction itself isn't evil. We all decompress. We all need mindless entertainment sometimes. But there's a difference between choosing to relax and needing to escape. When you can't sit alone for 10 minutes without reaching for stimulation, that's a sign. A sign that there's something inside you that you've been avoiding, something that's been waiting to be heard. The phone isn't the problem. The silence isn't the problem. The problem is what you're running from. Think about something you used to love, a hobby, a passion, a dream you had. Maybe it was music, or writing, or cooking, or travel, or sports, something that used to light you up from the inside. Now, ask yourself, when's the last time you actually felt that? For a lot of people, the answer is, I can't remember. The things that used to excite you don't anymore. Not really. Maybe you still do them occasionally, but that spark, that joy, that sense of this is what I'm here for, it's gone quiet. You've been living for other people's expectations, for social media, for productivity, for keeping up. And in that process, your own inner world, your passions, your curiosity, your sense of wonder slowly got suffocated. And here's what I want you to really sit with. That spark didn't die. It just went underground. Because no one showed it that it was still safe to come out. It's not just about phone distractions. It's about the deeper pattern. You avoid yourself. When you're alone, really alone, not just physically alone, but mentally unoccupied, something uncomfortable happens. Your mind starts to wander into territory you don't want to explore. Doubts, questions you don't have answers to, feelings you've been pushing down for months, maybe years. So you make sure you're never really alone. You always have something on in the background: music, podcasts, TV. You stay busy, you fill your schedule, you say yes to every social plan just to avoid a quiet evening at home with your own thoughts. Overthinking replaces genuine reflection. Emptiness replaces peace. And you escape over and over, instead of turning toward yourself and asking, what's actually going on with me? Here's the truth. The thoughts you're most afraid to sit with are usually the ones that have the most to teach you. The discomfort isn't a warning to stay away. It's an invitation to go deeper. Someone asks you how you're doing, and before you even process the question, the words are already out of your mouth. I'm fine. I'm good. Just tired. You say it so reflexively, so automatically, that you don't even stop to check if it's actually true. This is emotional suppression, and it's one of the most common ways we disconnect from ourselves. We learn, usually from a young age, that certain emotions aren't welcome, that showing vulnerability is weakness, that nobody really wants to hear how you actually feel. So we build this wall, a polished, presentable version of ourselves that we show to the world. And over time, we start showing it to ourselves too. We stop checking in. We stop asking, how am I really doing? Because somewhere along the way, we learn that the honest answer might be too heavy to carry. But here's what no one tells you. Emotions that aren't expressed don't disappear. They go underground. They come out sideways as irritability, numbness, exhaustion, anxiety, or that constant low-grade feeling that something is wrong, but you can't quite name it. You stopped checking in with yourself, and that's when you started losing yourself. Monday feels like Tuesday. Tuesday feels like Wednesday. You wake up and the day just happens to you. Same alarm, same commute, same lunch, same scroll, same sleep. And somewhere in that routine, the you who makes intentional choices, who shows up with awareness, who actually decides how to live, that version of you clocked out without notice. Living on autopilot is dangerous, not because routine is bad, but because when you're on autopilot, you're not present. You're not learning anything new about yourself. You're not growing. You're just repeating. Days blur into weeks, weeks into months, and one day you look up and wonder where the last year went, and you realize you can't remember a single moment that felt alive. Awareness is the antidote, and awareness starts with noticing. Noticing that you're on autopilot, noticing how you feel right now in this moment. Noticing that there is a version of you that wants to be more intentional, and that version hasn't gone anywhere. This is the deepest one, and often the hardest to admit. Someone asks you, what do you want? Not just for dinner, for your life, for your relationships, for your future, for yourself. And you draw a blank. Or, even more telling, you know what everyone else wants for you. You know what society expects. You know what your parents hoped for, what your boss needs, what your partner wants. But when you try to separate that from what you actually want, there's just static. That confusion isn't weakness. It's the result of spending too long trying to meet everyone else's expectations while quietly ignoring your own inner voice. When you never practice asking yourself what you want, that inner voice gets fainter and fainter, until one day you can barely hear it at all. Following others instead of yourself feels safe. It feels practical. But over time, it creates a life that fits like someone else's clothes. It looks fine from the outside, but it never quite feels right. And that feeling, that low-level wrongness, is your inner self trying to get your attention. So here's where we land, and I need you to really hear this. Losing yourself doesn't happen all at once. It happens quietly, in small moments you ignore, in feelings you push past, in choices you make out of fear instead of truth, in mornings where you wake up and immediately reach for your phone instead of yourself. It's gradual, it's subtle, and it's incredibly common, especially in a world that rewards performance over authenticity, productivity over presence, and looking fine over actually being okay. But here's the thing, and this is why I needed you to stay with me until this very moment right here. The fact that you're noticing it now means you still have time to come back. You clicked on this video for a reason. Something in you recognized the title. Something in you already knew. And that knowing, that little flicker of awareness, is not nothing. That is everything. Because you can't find your way back to yourself if you first don't realize you've drifted. And you just did that right here, in this video. So what's next? It doesn't have to be dramatic. It doesn't have to be a complete life overhaul. It starts small. It starts with one honest moment of self-reflection. One morning where instead of grabbing your phone, you sit with yourself for 5 minutes and ask, how am I actually doing? It starts with letting yourself feel the things you've been running from. It starts with saying to yourself, honestly, I don't know what I want yet, but I'm going to start listening. Because you are not too far gone. You are not broken. You have not become someone you can't come back from. You are still in there. Underneath the routines, the noise, the performances, the I'm fines, you are still there. And coming back to yourself, that's not a destination. It's a decision. One you can make right now. If this video spoke to something in you, share it with someone who might need to hear it. And if you want more content like this, real,